All right, so right off the bat, I have to say Giselle is one fucked up dude. And I know that's going to piss off some of the internet, but it's the cold hard truth, and I'm going to get more into that here in a second. But before I do that and talk about the rest of the episode, I want to give my girl Orihime a little bit of love because she looks amazing and she doesn't get to do much this episode. So this week's episode is titled Marching Out the Zombies. Um, it's a nice little buffer before the next big set of fights, which is going to take place in Squad Zero's, region of the Soul Society. So I'm not mad about that. On my newish scoring scale, I'm going to give this a 3.5. I liked it. Good episode. So let me dive into it real quick. Um, First off, we get to see how smart Kisuke Urahara really is because he started planning for the potential return to Squad Zero by creating a cannon with the help of Captain Korosuchi, which he basically calls him a genius, and said the only person that's smarter than him is, of course, himself. And the explanation of what's going on between or in the world of the living, there's these rifts that are happening. Um, he's basically saying that these rifts are going to cause a problem in the real world, and he's dispatched the Vizards to go take samples and hopefully contain these rifts that are going on at this moment. And while all this is happening, we get to see the return of the lovely Yororichi. She's a fan favorite, and after I think they said 13 years, she's finally back on camera, which I absolutely adore. So after that bit's done, we go into the fighting of the people that were trying to come after Ichigo. We don't get to see much of Renji and his fight. I'm sure we're going to see that in the next episode or two. It was pretty funny seeing Renji kind of blush or get embarrassed because he got told he was cool. I thought that was a funny little moment. We see Byakuya get surrounded by three Quincy's, and that's it. The main focus of this week's episode was with Giselle, and when we first see him, he's playing the helpless, unarmed woman card, and Yumichika and Ikaku are there. They figured out not to cut him. Cutting him would cause some type of problem. They just didn't know what it would be. And Yumichika also calls him out for being a guy, which Giselle really didn't like. You could see his face change, and after that happens, you see that he turned his former squad mate Bambi into a zombie. And when she attacks, and Ikaku and Yumichika are knocked down, Giselle talks about how he got excited, and Yumichika calls him a pervert. This was a change, apparently, in the Japanese actual wording to the American translation, because in the manga, he mentions how turning Bambi into a zombie made him wet, and Yumichika says, "Don't you mean hard?" which he didn't like. And Yumichika also calls him out, or says he knows he's a man because of the smell of semen, which they change, and I'm sure they have their reasons, but Yumichika basically called him out on his BS. He didn't like it. The whole acting that he's doing, they saw right through it. And Giselle, using Bambi, fights Yumichika and Ikaku. Seeing those two fight together is a nice change of pace because they usually fight one-on-one. So I like how they did that. And when it started to seem like Giselle with Bambi was going to have the upper hand, old Captain Korosuchi rejoins the battle in his gold glowing outfits, and he talks down to Giselle, which isn't crazy because he talks down to pretty much everyone. He has this very "I'm better than everyone" mentality, which a lot of people like because he's also a mad scientist. And you know, I guess you can say sadly, he tends to back it up. Um, but as Giselle turns his attention to Captain Korosuchi, um, Captain Kurosuchi easily, counters everything that Giselle's throwing at him with Bambi's help. Um, and there's a moment when they're fighting that there's a moment that Bambi starts to foam at the mouth. She's salivating at the mouth, and she's talking about how she wants Giselle's, and she doesn't finish the sentence. And the way this scene is put together, it's like she's an addict having withdrawals for something, and obviously it's not Giselle's blood. And this is the hint. I've said in the past, Giselle's a very controversial character, and one of the parts of that controversial characteristics is it seems like he keeps the female Quincy zombies in check by sleeping with them or doing whatever he does to them. Necrophilia. I don't know how they're gonna describe it on the show, but Bambi's. You know, let me stop for a second. Bambi is begging Giselle for his whatever, and Giselle ends up slapping her, and he's like, "I'll give you your treat after the fight," and he calls her an insatiable girl. Uh, all that being said, it pretty much solidifies that Giselle is doing sexual acts to his pets, if you want to call them that. Um, I know the internet is all up in arms about Giselle. I don't care how they try to cut it. Giselle is a perverted, twisted guy who dresses up like a woman and acts like a woman so he can get his rocks off. And that's the sad truth because everyone calls it an act. And even when Captain Korosuchi brings back for former hollows, former espadas, to fight the current zombie Soul Reapers, Charlotte, who is very flamboyant, basically tells Giselle, "Hey, you're like me," which Giselle didn't like. Um, so all this being said, I know the internet, a small portion of the internet is trying to say Giselle's trans. That wasn't a big thing, when this came out 13, what, 12, 13 years ago. That's the truth. And Tite Kubo, the original creator, has already stated he is a biological male. And if you go into Bleach Reddit, they will ban you for saying such, which is why I don't get anime Twitter. Anyways, back to the episode. These four former espadas, hollows, they fight these zombie soul reapers, easily overpower them, and that tells me how much the Quincy's were afraid of the hollows and espadas, the more powerful espadas, because Bambi gets kind of manhandled by an unreleased former espada. Easily palms her face and throws her, and he's calling her out for being weak. So it's been stated that hollows are basically poisonous to Quincy's, and this is another uh, um, validation on that statement. Um, so this fighting's going on. The former espadas, the zombie espadas, are getting the upper hand, and Giselle, at the very end, decides to pull out her trump card, which is a zombified Toshiro Hitsugaya. And that's where the episode ends. I'm sure we're going to see, the outcome of that. If not next week, maybe the week after. These next few episodes are going to have a lot of fighting because of just where all the pieces are set in the story. But yeah, this episode was a pretty solid one. Like I said, I'm I'm always gonna enjoy them, and I'm hoping more and more. I'm noticing more and more people get into it, um, which is, you know, a double-edged sword because I'm seeing Twitter, anime Twitter, basically saying the studio should fire their staff and they should quit putting out subpar content because they need better animation, which is fucking retarded because this has been a plan, all this for like the last 6 years, and they are pulling the best in-house, artists they can for this arc, and the people, the faceless anime avatars on Twitter are kind of making Bleach fans look bad right now. Older Bleach fans are just taking it all in. It's all of the important people I follow on YouTube and on Twitter. They have no real gripes going on. They may have a um, certain critiques on it, but they're not complaining. We're enjoying what we're getting. There are some stuff that's getting dropped off. More humorous stuff, which is one of the things. The only joke that I was hoping that we're gonna keep, they dropped it off. I'll put a little picture panel right here for you so you can see. But it was Orihime Ichigo Yorichi moment that was both cute and funny, but they cut it. That's fine. I understand why. But yeah, all in all, this was another good episode. I'm still loving it. I'm hoping some of you are getting into it. But yeah, I think that's where I'm going to end today's little mini review. Looking at my notes, it seems like I covered everything that I had written down. So I hope you have a good one. I'm going to go back to playing some Destiny and Armored Core because I am very hooked on those two games. But I will see you either next week or later on this week because One Piece live action Netflix's One Piece came out and I have a lot to say about it. Spoiler alert, I absolutely loved it and I'm going to get more into it in the next few days, share that with y'all. But I hope y'all have a good one and I will talk to you later.